I'll start. I'm Piotr, and my nickname is Ambara. And I'm CEO of DeltaPrime, working on the project since 1.5 years. A long way, and yeah, a lot of excitement right now in our team about the current launch. And yeah, a couple of words about the background of DeltaPrime. So before I entered Web3 space, I worked on insurance systems. And as a developer, I really like the job, but I've seen how the current financial systems are ineffective, how they are all disconnected from each other, and was thinking how that could be improved. Usually in this kind of projects, you are stuck with a really big Java applications, really difficult to innovate upon, and all the systems are totally disconnected, making it hard to innovate in the financial space. And then at one point, I heard about DeFi. I got interested about how it solves the problem of the composability of the financial systems. And that got my real interest. And when I was working on the space, I got interested in lending. And DeFi lending is something really great. You just come, you connect with your MetaMask, with your core wallet, make a transaction, and the money is there. It's really straightforward, available for everyone, something that is really hard to find in the traditional financial systems. But at the first glance, it was so great. And then I was nah, I have to put more collateral than I actually can borrow. I was thinking wow, how that can be solved, and how that system can be improved. And then I met my friend who was working on a hackathon project, and he introduced me to his project where the actually funds they weren't lent out to a wallet but to a smart contract. And in that moment, I was wow, that's something so innovative actually. And at the second time, it's super simple approach. You just use smart contracts. You just use the basic blocks of the blockchain system. And I was just figuring out in my mind what can be built out from that. And then Camille, our CTO, joined the team, and Gavin, and we were figuring out what can be built. And we came up with something that is close to the prime brokerage, kind of resembles prime brokerage services, but in a pure DeFi way.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think just the tech you guys have built is quite significant for the space, and definitely a leap forward for the Avalanche ecosystem. So from here, Matt, if you want to just do a quick intro from our side, and then if you want to just jump into it with the questions, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, so my name is Matt Schmenk. I joined Ava Labs almost a year ago now. Wow, time has really flown by. I started off in traditional finance directly after undergrad. That was May of 2020. I kind of found crypto in January of 2021, and once I found it, it was kind of game over. I ended up spending almost all of my free time just researching, using various networks and chains, and really diving headfirst into it. So here I am today. I'm a BD associate, kind of specifically focused on DeFi here at Ava Labs, but definitely go across multiple verticals. For those that don't know, I'll give a quick kind of 1-minute background about who Ava Labs is and how it relates to the Avalanche network. Ava Labs is the servicing firm behind the Avalanche network or blockchain. Avalanche was founded by Professor Emin Günsirer, who was a professor at Cornell at the time, and some of his students. It's kind of a very tech-first blockchain, and we truly believe that we can kind of scale towards the next billion users. So that's a short background about myself as well as Avalanche and Ava Labs. Yeah, so I guess hopping right into the questions, would you mind explaining what prime brokerages are in kind of traditional finance and how it fits into all of this?
Yeah, definitely. I'll take this one. Also, a short introduction on me. So I'm Gavin, CBDO at DeltaPrime. mostly focused on the communication side. And what we're building is indeed like a decentralized prime brokerage, right? Now, a normal broker provides trading services, and a prime broker essentially provides also trading services, but provides it with specialized services at the same time. Super expensive, and therefore you can only use it if you're a large institution yourself. It's mostly being used by hedge funds, right? And they usually have like complex strategies, similar to what we have in DeFi as well, by the way. Complex strategies which need extra monitoring, sometimes leverage, being able to borrow against it, a good overview of what's happening. But as a normal trader, like you don't have access to that. What we're doing with DeltaPrime, and what we, in our opinion, desperately need in DeFi as well, is a place where it's still completely decentralized. So nothing like FTX or like no centralized stuff. You can see everything that you own, but at the same time, you can you have one place where the best of DeFi is combined. One portfolio. So that's like an extra service that we provide. Like it's cross margin. You have a cross margin portfolio with the best DeFi protocols in the Avalanche ecosystem. And what we then innovate on, which is also like a specialized service, is the fact that we provide the first trustless, under-collateralized loans on Avalanche, and one of the first in DeFi as a whole. So as a user, you can come to DeltaPrime, and we have a lot of users doing that right now. They come to DeltaPrime, deposit $100, borrow $200, $300, $400. We don't know who you are. We don't need to know who you are, but you can use the full, let's say you borrow $400. You can use the full $400 that you borrowed and the $100 of your collateral to invest in these OGs in crypto, right? And then you can think of like a yield check, a Vector Finance, a Pangolin, a Trader Joe. And in doing so, we are unlocking like a whole bunch of liquidity that are usually being trapped. We're unlocking that, and as a user, you get access to that extra liquidity. And you can amplify your usual returns.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's kind of interesting, actually, because I think when a lot of people hear under-collateralized lending, they think of Maple, TrueFi, Celeste, a variety of others that essentially do a light KYC as well as due diligence process on maybe a trusted institutional party versus actually having a fully decentralized prime brokerage on chain that hopefully over the long run will end up being safer than kind of those more centralized under collateralized options. So it's super interesting to think about. So what is the main problem that DeltaPrime solves at this point in time? Like, how is it truly helping the Avalanche ecosystem?
Yeah, so first of all, I think you're absolutely right. Like there's quite a negative connotation on under-collateralized lending, mainly through what we saw last year. But what we are solving right now with those trustless under-collateralized loans is essentially because like the problem that you just addressed comes from KYC, right? From the fact that you are basing whether someone is creditworthy on their identity. We are providing that in a trustless fashion, and in doing so, we have the upside of what an over-collateralized protocol has as well. So there are liquidation bots running in the background, making sure that the loan is repaid, even if there's no there's no trust. We're not trusting someone to pay back their loan. In doing so, we unlock a whole bunch of liquidity that would usually end up in these over-collateralized protocols, because over-collateralization was a huge step forward in lending, where we first had KYC, first trust-based loans. We then got trustless loans, hugely popular, topping the list in DeFi Llama, for example. But at the same time, extremely capital inefficient, because every user of an over-collateralized system, whether you are a depositor or whether you are a borrower, you're always providing extra liquidity, extra value to these protocols. And in doing so, right now on Avalanche, like on every dollar that is in our ecosystem, over 50 cents ends up in these protocols, and it's waiting to be either liquidated or to be returned, but it's not, or to be lent out to the next person, but it's not providing like actual value like an AMM does. And since we are able to provide the same safety and the trustlessness, the same liquidation bots, but under-collateralized loans. So you come to DeltaPrime, you deposit $100, you can borrow $400, and you use the full $500. We're able to unlock all that liquidity. That's also something that we've seen over the past days happening, and what we're really looking forward to in the upcoming time. And if you're asking me, like, okay, so what does that actually mean for the Avalanche ecosystem? It means that protocols like a Trader Joe, like a Pangolin, which thus far had to rely on 50 cents on the dollar, they'll be able to get 75 cents on the dollar or 80 cents on the dollar, maybe even, without us necessarily having to attract liquidity from outside sources, because the money is already here. So we're making the whole chain a whole lot more capital efficient in doing so. And swap fees go down. Like, as a user, swap fees go down because of deeper pool liquidity, and that makes it also more attractive for more people to get in. So it will also make it easier for us to actually attract that external capital as a chain.
Wow, that's so awesome. So I guess one question that we didn't necessarily have prepared, but I think would be very helpful to the audience, would be maybe going through a step-by-step process of what you're greeted with when you go to the DeltaPrime website, what it means being a liquidity provider, what it means opening up a Prime account, what you're greeted with within those options, and kind of go through the full process of how it works from a user perspective.
Sure, happy to share. So first of all, go to our website. It's deltaprime.io, and the first thing you will see on the website is, who do you choose to be? Do you choose to be a liquidity provider, or do you choose to be a Prime account holder? Because we connect both of these users inside one system. So a usual liquidity provider is a person who wants to leave the money in a safe place, get the APY, come after 2 months, after 2 weeks, money is still there, and it's like creating more capital. Prime account holder is a more active trader. So it's a person who wants to trade, get more capital, control health ratio, control APYs, arbitrage opportunities. And that's what we created, like, all this Prime account system for. So you have to choose. You can actually choose both right now, but especially at this stage, we really we would like to invite you to do your own Prime account and see like what the system actually enables you to do. And starting from there, you have to create your Prime account by providing one of the assets that we accepted whitelisted as collateral. And there are like many to choose. There's AVAX, SAVAX, USDC, wrapped ETH, wrapped Bitcoin, a couple of others, all of them based on the safety metrics. And once you go through the transaction, accept every from the 2 or 3 following transactions, your Prime account is created. It takes a little bit more guys, but it's like will give you a lot of like opportunities in the future. And then you will see your whole portfolio that you can create using your own and borrowed assets. So for example, what you can do, you can provide USDC as a collateral, borrow AVAX, turn it into SAVAX, and state SAVAX. By that, you create a delta neutral strategy. You can leverage your opportunities. You can create an LP token using borrowed funds, using your own funds, and get pretty crazy APIs. So like in the last days, like some of the users, they were able to do like even like 200, 300% APIs, basically with no degen shady kind of stuff happening below, because it's all like what can be created in a system which is under-collateralized, which is more efficient.
Yeah, a question that I've gotten kind of this week as DeltaPrime has launched, and I think it's always a good question to ask, regardless of what the DeFi protocol is as a liquidity provider, what is the yield coming from? Where is it coming from? And what kind of yield can I expect?
Yeah, I think that's that is the most important question that you always should ask with every investment. We wrote an article on that as well in April, I think, like a Prime business, also going deeper into the whole business model of DeltaPrime, and about like where does the yield come from? If you're asking specifically like from a liquidity provider from DeltaPrime, so you provide liquidity for others to borrow, you're getting your yield from the interest rate. So borrowers, they pay obviously. So if I'm borrowing $400 and I pay 10% a year, then I'm paying $40 a year. That goes to the liquidity providers. Right now, DeltaPrime does not take any fees. That is going to change because we need to be sustainable, of course, but right now it's all free. And what can you expect? That is because of the higher capital efficiency. Like, imagine this: you have $100 lent out in an over-collateralized protocol, and because it's over-collateralized, their pool utilization, let's say it's very high. It's 50%. That means that from your $100, only $50 is actually lent out. On the other $50, you're earning nothing. Now, DeltaPrime innovates in the fact that it's able to have a high pool utilization. So if instead of 50%, the pool utilization is 75%, of your $50, you're now earning money on $75. From your $100, sorry. From the $100 that you deposited, you're now earning money on the $75. So the spread, like the borrowers, they're paying still the same in this example. So the spread is a whole lot lower, which is beneficial to both parties, to the borrowers and to the lenders. So what can you expect? You can expect a higher yield than over-collateralized protocols. Of course, there is a lower risk compared to under-collateralized protocols based on trust. And usually risk is also factored in an interest rate. So you can expect a lower interest rate than under-collateralized protocols, a higher interest rate than over-collateralized protocols, but the same safety of over-collateralized protocols. Does that make sense? Because I know that's a lot at once.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. But during the Q&A session, people might come up to ask some questions about it. So, yeah. So I know we talked about a lot. Sorry, I know we talked a lot about under-collateralization so far, and like centralization, trustlessness, and kind of everything in that realm. Do you guys think that that's going to be a trend going forward? I mean, I think we're all kind of united in that kind of general ethos or spirit of crypto being decentralized in fashion, but do you think it's sped up since the events of the past, I don't know, 6 months and everything that we've seen? Or where do you guys see us going within, like, I don't know, the next few years?
Piotr, you want to answer that?
Sure. So definitely DeFi space offers opportunity that traditional finance didn't have before. And that's why we see all like the big players, they were like all like referring negatively to crypto for a long time, at the same time creating their own blockchain departments. Like so we see Goldman Sachs, we see JP Morgan, like trying to innovate on that, because they see, I think the big part of DeFi innovation is composability of DeFi products, something that many people refer to like getting all the Lego puzzles together. And that's what creates opportunities that like traditional finance together with right now like decentralized projects, like we'll see all of the possible solutions, like real life solutions of the systems. So what we created in DeltaPrime is not just like an under-collateralized protocol, but it's a system which connects DeFi protocols to provide more capital efficiency in a safe way, controlling the health, controlling the solvency. So like a DeltaPrime user doesn't have to be like just a human with a wallet, but it can be a smart contract as well. So some other people can build upon this idea. And yeah, I'm a true believer that these kind of solutions will change the space because we cannot go together in the long run with a really big capital inefficiency. So if, for example, half of the liquidity of the blockchain is locked in the smart contracts, that means that it's actually useless. It doesn't create more value. It doesn't decrease the swap fees. It doesn't like provide, it's not provided for staking. So we really need to change it, like to make blockchain not only trustless and permissionless, but efficient, like something that traditional finance will look for.
If I can follow up a little bit on that as well, like to answer the question, like, is this something that we expect to see more of? I personally, I think we will see this, because like the use case, like also Piotr just mentioned, the use case is clear, right? Like it's pretty clear to everyone intuitively why we would want trustless under-collateralized loans. But then the actual execution might differ from person to person. We have a very high focus on, like, our number one priority is making sure that the liquidity providers, that they are getting their money back. Because, like you already said as well, like, there's already a negative connotation, right? We don't need any more crashes like we've seen in the past. So we're pretty restrictive with the protocols that we whitelist on DeltaPrime. Now, that's our preference. I can imagine that there are a whole bunch of DGens who want to do like the same thing, but then with maybe not even like risky protocols, but riskier protocols, right? That offer higher yield. And for that, like another project might pop up. I do think, just like you're seeing over-collateralized lending protocols, there's not just one or just two, like they're everywhere, they're on every chain, and even within chains, there are multiple. We'll see more solutions like this as well, with differentiations in what do we accept, what interest rate models do we hold, stuff like that.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks for the great answers. So I know DeltaPrime has launched 3 days ago. How's the launch been? Have you guys seen kind of liquidity where you expect it, yields where you expected them to be, any hiccups, any issues, or has it just been a great seamless experience?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, no, this has been great. It's been great. Like, first of all, like, just launching a project like this is awesome, just fun to do. A lot of work, like, we've been swamped. Like, we go to sleep with DeltaPrime, we wake up with DeltaPrime, but a lot of fun at the same time. Seeing the numbers, it shows exactly what we expected. And I'm not talking necessarily about TVL. Like in TVL, we're right now at 1.5 million, I think. 1.6 maybe, but especially like what is being borrowed of that, because that for us is more important, right? It's not so much how much liquidity do we lock up by liquidity providers, because then you get the exact same problem that we're having right now, but how much is being unlocked. And in the first, it has changed a little bit, like pool utilization. It went, we had a maximum pool utilization of 80% on USDC. That right now stabilized a bit again to about 60%. 65. And on AVAX, we are at 45 to 50%. So if you compare that to the traditional lending, and with traditional, I now mean over-collateralized lending protocols, it's on AVAX, we're already more capital efficient. On USDC, we more than doubled on capital efficiency. And that for us is the most important metric. If we get the pool utilization up, because that's goal number one, get them both to about 75%. USDC can go a little bit higher. But then you'll see that the interest rate for liquidity providers will go up as well. At our highest point, we had a USDC 5% interest rate for providing liquidity, so the deposit rate. Right now, Piotr, I don't know if you have the number in front of you. I know it has gone down a little bit. But overall, I'm very happy with what we've seen, and very happy to keep on growing.
Awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry, just like on the numbers, because I'm looking at them right now. So we have 60%, more than 60% of USDC pool utilization, and 45 on IVAX.
Yeah, so that's huge, right? And at the same time, because I know there is also, like, from a more critical perspective, like, hey, doesn't this allow everyone to go full DGen, to go full 5x leverage and blow through all the capital that they have? We see that the people that are investing right now on DeltaPrime, even though they are yielding the returns that Piotr earlier mentioned, but in total, again, I don't have the exact numbers, but so in my memory, like from yesterday, total deposits. Total collateral was $350,000. Total borrowed value $620,000. So even though people, they have the opportunity to borrow with high leverage, you can do that if you want to, and sometimes it makes sense. But you can also use DeltaPrime in a way to just better create your portfolio and to just manage your risk in a sense that makes sense to you, right? And that's very personal. But it's not like that, like everyone is over leveraging the chain. And to be fair, even though we do allow it, we do allow like borrowing power of 5x. We are very happy to see how it's been going so far and how responsible people have been using DeltaPrime.
Great, great. Yeah, so what does the smart contract architecture look like? What's the code base look like? Is it a fork of another protocol, or is it completely novel and new? Yeah, would you mind just kind of touching upon that?
Sure. So here, big applause to our CTO, Kamilowski, because he kind of like resolved the problem being underneath. Yeah, obviously, like before we started working on DeltaPrime, we just looked there, what's there in the space, what libraries, what contracts, what other protocols we could use, potentially use to create a system like that. And it turned out that we found none. Like not some, we haven't found anything that would be like close enough for us to like build upon. And yeah, I think that's the reason why these under-collateralized systems, they keep popping out right now. So we're like in the beginning of this like beautiful under-collateralization race, like to make more make space more efficient. So what Kamil did with my little help and other devs, he created a pattern that combines two really important patterns of the smart contract nowadays. So the very first one is the proxy pattern. And it's a pattern that is used by recognizable protocols like Ava, like Uniswap and others. So basically, you have a contract which just hold the funds, which is the address you communicate with, and you have another contract that contains the implementation of the methods. So think of it as like an upgradable contract, where you can like modify how the methods work, how does it work, and why is it important? Yeah, so first of all, DeFi changes. So every month, every 2 months, every 3 months, something new pops up. On the other hand, we know that the smart contracts, like the way they're created, sometimes they are not perfect and they can be optimized. So that gives the protocol, the DAO, possibility of upgrading the contracts, making them more efficient without a need to deploy the next version of the protocol. Because as you know, like moving from V1 to V2 to V3, it's a really complicated process. How to move this liquidity, how to attract it in a new place, how to teach people how to use it. So it's better to have an upgradable protocol. But working on our project and by integrating, we are integrating a lot. We have Trader Job, Pangolin, Yieldiac, Vector Finance, and others like Platypus. And to have them all inside the system, you have to communicate with other protocols, and that requires a lot of code. And for that, we need a system that is scalable, that is not limited by the maximum smart contract size, and to make it something that we can easily upgrade in the future and make it resemble the current state of DeFi. And we connected another pattern, which is diamond pattern, where you can. It's a little bit more complicated, but like it's better for scalability with beacon proxy pattern. Okay, now it's like only for Solidity devs, but like we created smart, like this kind of diamond beacon proxy pattern that we'll probably make a library of, like for other protocols to use. And based on that, we were able to connect the liquidity pools that we created as well, and other contracts, making the system that is DeltaPrime today.
Maybe to make it like also then for the non-devs, what does this mean? What does this mean for you? This means that Camille is able to integrate a new protocol as long as we have something that is closely resembled to it. So, for example, we already have an AMM integrated. Integrating a new AMM costs a day at max. It's like a plug and play kind of system where you can swap one protocol for another, even though their code base obviously are different. But it makes changing DeltaPrime to what is currently happening in the market way easier and way faster in a safe way.
Yeah, and I guess one question I had that's more of a personal question is, how has it been building here on Avalanche? How's the community been? How have the devs been? The other builders? What have your interactions been with other kind of protocols? How's the experience been?
Yeah, amazing. Like it's been a lot of fun, and we've been welcomed very warmly by everyone essentially. Initially, and that's maybe a fun thing, like fun short little story to mention, where the first time that we got a little bit of a stage was when Emin retweeted under-collateralized loans are coming, and he retweeted a thread on DeltaPrime. And that thread was made by one of our partners, I believe someone from YieldCheck. And you saw in the comments initially a lot of resistance, a lot of, oh, well, that can't go well and that must go wrong, and another Terra 2.0. Those were the first responses that we got, indicating that also, obviously, like we're on Twitter, of course, and everything goes fast, so not everyone read like in depth what was happening. Over time, we have partnered up with like amazing protocols. Everyone that I mentioned earlier that we've integrated into DeltaPrime, with a RoboVault, a Redstone, and we've done AMAs with them as well. Again, all those protocols as well, they've been really open, and they've been really open to collaborating with us. And we've seen like with the more recent, with the launch, which was of course like a next step onto the stage, that as people understood more what DeltaPrime is really about, that it's not about, hey, we're going to give you $400 for free and you can go and look what you're going to do with it, put it into Shiba and see what happens. But instead, like everything, like we've a very, very big like security section on our docs as well. So if you want to know what are you exactly doing, please go look there. And we've seen that a lot more people have been looking into it. And with that, like over the past couple of days, on Twitter, it's been like very, very supportive, and for us as a team, it's super energetic. I'm managing most of the Twitter myself, so I am sending very often just screenshots of what the community is saying, how they're responding. I'm sending it to Piotr, I'm sending it to Camille, and it just energizes all of us to keep building, and keep improving, and keep working around the clock to get DeltaPrime to its best state possible.
Amazing. Yeah, so I know we're kind of past the 30-minute mark, so maybe we can wrap up some closing final questions, and then from there, open up the floor to the audience. So what's the biggest learning experience that you guys have kind of gained since deciding to build DeltaPrime?
Yeah, so for me personally, but I believe that Tim will agree, is perseverance. The times were not easy to build. Like, when you see like everything failing, falling down, and you're building something innovative, like you don't know all of the solutions, all the problems. Like sometimes it can be really hard to like keep going. But we always believed in what we were building. We had a lot of support, of course, from our friends, from families, and from the awesome blockchain community. And something that seemed impossible to do, like right now, it became possible. And I hope it will be the year like that. I'm really happy that we started in like such a positive way this 2023. I hope that there will be like more this kind of stuff coming, like new protocols, innovations in DeFi, and we'll see where we can go.
And for me, because like I definitely agree with what Piotr is saying, like building while Terra collapses and building launching while FTX collapses, like those aren't the best market conditions that you wish for. So you definitely grow through that. But like a personal one for me is that initially I was falling into the trap that I think a lot of starting protocols make, where they promise, where they communicate every idea that they know they're going to build, but they expect it to be built in 2 weeks. And I'm talking about myself. At the beginning, sometimes like we expected to have something out in 2-3 weeks or in a month, and I would put an announcement out saying, hey, in a month we're gonna have this. And like if you're starting out in a technical like building something, that's something that I learned this time. Like we're keeping a lot of alpha to ourselves until the very moment that we know, okay, this is gonna come, and this is the time in which you can expect it, and we know it for sure. Does that mean that sometimes we keep sitting on something for a pretty long while? Yes, but I believe that building trust like this is way more valuable than getting the early hype that you would otherwise get. So that's like a personal learning experience from me.
Awesome. Yeah. I guess kind of as we wrap up, what's next for DeltaPrime? What can we expect? What's the roadmap looking like the next maybe 3, 6 months, year, something like that?
So we don't want to innovate only on the smart contract system and the efficiency, but on the user experience as well. So far, what you would expect from a DeFi protocol is just you have like this web page, you can do your action, connect with MetaMask, and that's it. You don't have a good feedback whether you make money or not. You put your money into big API pool, but actually you don't know if you're like the underlying asset loses its value, and you don't really know if you're making money. And taking all multiple protocols from all over the space, you kind of like might go into the point you don't know what's happening. Am I really profitable or not? And we want to solve this problem, so we'll be really innovating on giving a good feedback to a user. So a lot of innovating happening on UA side, and definitely really great integrations that are coming. I will not like share any alpha yet, but I think you can expect coming soon like AAA protocols, so like observe us, be with us. We really appreciate all your feedback that we get from the users, and based on that we actually create our roadmap. So your word, your like what you think, what's your experience with the app, it really matters to us, and we'll be sharing more soon.
Maybe I can share a little bit of alpha though, because I did already share it like in our Discord. So I'm going to share that because I think that this is something that a lot of people are waiting for that are using their Prime account right now. And because it's something that we get requested a lot. And that is to have YAC integrated, so a yield aggregators. A DEX aggregator. So right now we are using Pangolin and Trader Joe for swaps, and 9 out of 10 times that works good. But sometimes like it makes more sense to use a platypus, for example, right, for your stable swaps, for example. So that's something that's coming really, really soon. Just want to share that.
Great. Yeah. So maybe for the last 5, 10, 20 minutes, we can open it up to the floor and see if there's any questions.
All right. Thanks, everybody. If the listeners want to go ahead and request to speak, you can go ahead and just click on your mic button in the bottom left, and then we'll invite you up to speak. All right, DeFi Dirk, you're up first. Go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I'm a big believer in the tech of both Avalanche and Prime Delta. They're both really exciting. But with the announcements of partnerships between Avalanche, Alibaba, Amazon, Shopify, etc., I'm curious to hear from both Ava Labs' perspective as well as the DeltaPrime developers who chose Avalanche as a chain of choice, why you guys believe that Avalanche is better than a blockchain such as Ethereum from a technology standpoint, or how it solves problems that others don't.
Yeah. So I'm not necessarily going to use the words like better or worse or anything in that regard. It's kind of my objective personal thoughts. So it's actually funny. I first found Avalanche from a user first perspective. So I started using the network way back in, I think it was August of 2021 when Avalanche Rush was first announced. And I used Ethereum mainnet and Polygon before that. And I was kind of a decently heavy Polygon user during their liquidity mining program. And when Avalanche Rush was announced, I was like, wow, this is a super large program. I'm going to bridge my funds over and go use the chain. And kind of immediately when I got to the bridge, the bridging experience started off just, it was, I don't know, 10 times better maybe, and from the other bridges that I've seen in the past. And from then on out, it was just a kind of a seamless, amazing experience. And it was kind of my favorite EVM experience, and it made me want to dive into the tech. And so from there, I did my research. I was like, wow, why is this such a great experience? And I found that it was created by academics first and kind of from the ground up. So from the consensus layer, you had the third novel consensus mechanism ever created, Avalanche consensus using sub-second finality. And then from there, you kind of had most people were using C-chain, which is an instance of EVM, but a lot of people don't know that we're kind of completely virtual machine agnostic, especially regarding subnets. And so subnets are kind of Avalanche's version of application specific blockchains that are totally customizable in nature. So they can either be permissioned, permissionless, use any virtual machine they want, have, I don't know, 5 validators, and it could even have as many validators as the whole primary network if there was kind of the correct economic incentives. And so I'm someone that after I read about that technology, I was like, wow, this is definitely the network or chain that I believe in. And then a little bit later on my journey, maybe 6 months later, I started to subscribe more to the application specific blockchain thesis versus roll up thesis. And so it's funny, I joined Avalanche, like I said, about a year ago, and I wanted to work somewhere that I truly believed in the long-term vision and technology. And so it actually just perfectly worked out, me getting hired here and getting a job at Ava Labs and really building Avalanche.
Okay, so a couple of words why we have chosen Avalanche. So the choice actually wasn't that hard. I will just start a little bit with how our protocol works. So for every Prime account holder, we deploy a smart contract. So imagine deploying a smart contract when Ethereum is $3,000 worth on Ethereum chain. That would be like really extremely expensive. So we would exclude big part of potential users from even trying DeltaPrime, from even seeing what's that. So that's like the starting point, just deploying smart contract. And of course, because we have algorithmic under-collateralization, this is like more complicated than usual protocols. So it requires more gas. And that's why we needed a blockchain, which is at the same time capital efficient, like the gas efficient. So like the gas costs are not too high. But secondly, we needed a lot of liquidity. So like we cannot deploy to a small blockchain where the pools have like $50K dollars, because they could be easily manipulated. We really take security seriously. That's why we are looking for a blockchain where there is a lot of liquidity, a lot of DeFi being built. And the third reason is DeFi innovations. So we didn't want to be on a chain when we're like we are the only ones innovating, because that would kill our project long term, because we wouldn't be able to follow the current trends of DeFi. And what's happening right now on Avalanche, to me, is crazy. Like it becomes like one of the most important parts of the current Web3 space where DeFi innovation is made, and we want to be part of it.
Excellent. Okay. Great responses, you guys. Next, we're going to pull up Andrew. So, Andrew, when you come up on stage, go ahead and unmute and ask your question. Go ahead, Andrew. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next one. Let's see. All right, Tinos, you're up next. Go ahead and ask your question when you're ready.
Hey, Kay, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Hey, okay, thank you. I just jump into this. I just have a quick question. So I hear you saying, you can, like, I was reading on your Medium page, by the way, and then I see that you can actually borrow to your investors more than, uh, more than their deposit. So how do you get the liquidity, to do that? So I'm thinking, like, let's say you have 100 investors, and then out of the 100, 90 of them are borrowing, and only 10 of them are, depositing. So how do you get like the liquidity, for that to borrow? And my second question is there any way, like, do you guys are thinking of implementing something to teach, new investors, because a lot of people are into borrowing and lending, but they don't really know how to start, and some of the projects that I have seen that brought up investors were like, they create something that allow investor to communicate between each other, or maybe have like some, machine learning, that do like a price prediction based on, historical data. Do you guys have like any of those things, planning on it to kind of bring in new investors? Thank you.
Yeah, Tinos, thanks for your questions. I'm going to answer the first one first, and then I'm going to ask you to repeat the second one for me. But to answer your first one, like, how are we able to, or if I get it correctly, how are we able to, where do we get the investors from to provide liquidity to DeltaPrime?
Yes, that's correct. And then also I see that you can, like, my main question is, you can actually borrow, like, the investor can actually borrow way more than other projects allows, right?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
how do you get the liquidity to do way better than other projects to borrow them, if that makes sense?
Where do we get the liquidity from? So the liquidity comes, so just like an Aave, or on other like over-collateralized protocols, you have lenders and you have borrowers. Indeed, one borrower can, if he has the same amount of liquidity, he can borrow about as the mean number of lenders that the lenders have. He can borrow about 4 lenders on his own. So we do need a lot of liquidity from lenders. Now, the interest rate on DeltaPrime, it's dependent on the pool utilization. And so how much of the pool is actually being borrowed. So the more that's being borrowed, the higher the interest rate will go. This pool utilization, if like how it's been working so far, like it's been up, like our protocol has been optimized to have a pool utilization that is about twice, sometimes 3 times as high as over-collateralized protocols, because they can't get rid of their liquidity. Even if they want to, even if they have enough liquidity in place, they can't get rid of it. So, and we are able, through under-collateralization, to actually lend the money out. With a higher pool utilization, the interest rate will also be higher. So yes, it's true that one borrower can borrow relatively more than one lender can lend if they have the same amount of money. But it's way more attractive for lenders to lend on DeltaPrime than it is to lend on an over-collateralized protocol. And there are plenty of people, like if you're holding your Prime account, then you are going to have to manage that, because the whole DeFi ecosystem, it changes constantly. Today, GLP returns 65%. Tomorrow, it returns 20%, right? So to have the optimal strategy, you will have to adjust your investments accordingly. Now, as a liquidity provider, you don't have that. Like, you just provide liquidity, and because of the high pool utilization, you are essentially hiring portfolio managers for you. So where are we going to get the liquidity providers from? Hopefully from these over-collateralized protocols, where the liquidity providers realize that they can put their money to better use. Does that answer your question? And if so, what was your next one?
Yeah, it does answer my question. Thank you. My other question is like on the user-friendly parts. Like, do you have any plan like to bring in like more new investors that are not like that are new into like lending and borrowing protocols? Like, if so, what are they?
Yes. So we are focusing a lot, if I understand your question correctly. If not, let me know. But we are focusing a lot on education and making sure that, like, if you go, for example, to investing strategies, like we have investing strategies that we came up with that you could perform. And we are not trying to get people to just chase APYs, to just chase the highest yield available. Instead, like, you can do that, but you can, if you want to. But I believe that also what's better for DeltaPrime long term is if our investors are profitable long term. Not if they ape in for a second and they get liquidated and they're like, this is not for me, because leverage is dangerous, right? That's the thought that most people have. Leverage is dangerous, and usually it was, but it doesn't have to be. With a cross margin portfolio like DeltaPrime, you can use leverage in a way that you actually reduce price risk. And I think it's very important indeed for protocols like us to not only repeat that statement, but also to show investors how they could do that. At the end of the day, it's your own choice. DeltaPrime tries to give you the freedom, as much freedom as possible, right? To create your own portfolio. But if we are going to send a message, that message is going to be about delta neutral strategies, for example, where price risk doesn't impact your profitability. Right now, we are mainly focused, because we have very extensive docs, and we do that as well. But we also focus, obviously, on just getting the product right, making sure that the protocol is integrated, that all bugs are out of the way, that we have a YAC swap integrated, that we have GLP integrated in the first place. But while we're doing this, we also have in our Discord, like, if you're curious about this, about how can I use DeltaPrime in the best possible way, that I don't immediately ape all my money away, jump into our Discord, because we're very open to talk about it. We're very open to help you out. At the end of the day, it's your decision. We do not give investment advice, but we do try indeed to educate on risk management instead of just max leveraging everything again.
All right, fantastic. Let's go to the next speaker here. Andrew, we'll try you again. Once you come up on stage, feel free to unmute your mic and go ahead. Andrew, you're up on the stage. Go ahead and unmute, and you can ask your question.
Hey, good morning. This is Andrew Thompson on the call. Yeah, so I'm kind of new to the party. So in the context of NFTs, specifically digital representations of assets, with the emergence of the CBDC and other countries getting into the digital space, is there a streamlined approach for what I'm interested to know is asset interoperability? I don't know if there's a like some kind of documentation or platform that's come out in the AVX space. So I'm seeing it online. There's just a lot of bridges. So I'm looking for interoperability between digital assets.
Yeah. So there are a few good research pieces about this that I can share if you want to DM me on the side. Just kind of comparing. There's actually someone deemed it the interoperability trilemma. So kind of similar to the blockchain trilemma, but I'll send you over the research pieces that I've seen, as well as Avalanche specifically has just debuted Avalanche Warp Messaging, which is our version of kind of cross subnet as well as cross subnet, the primary network communication. So starting off with a messaging layer and then adding a transport layer, an asset layer as well. So if you want to reach out to me individually, I can send over a bunch of materials.
Excellent.
Great. Let's go to the next question. So Mergedone, let's get you up here and go ahead and ask your question. Okay, Mergedone, go ahead.
Hey guys, yeah, hi. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I've had a little play with the DeltaPrime yesterday actually, and yeah, it looks quite good and easy to navigate around. So well done on that. Also, well done on the integrating on other partners such as YieldYak. I think this is the best direction that, and the direction I'm seeing in the ecosystem as it is of partnership and just promoting the projects with each other. Sorry. One question I did have in the future, I don't know if this is going to go in towards like a delta phase on your end, but I'm obviously assuming you guys are going to have your own token, and if you do, are you going to use that as a collateral for your own business going forwards? Cheers.
Love. Go for it.
Okay. Yes. So definitely we are looking to launch our token, and it's gonna be an important part of our system. Hopefully, even like crucial, but not where it comes to the safety. So we've seen a lot of projects like failing because of like this particular reason. So you hype up the project, you create a protocol, you provide your token, and you provide security of your protocol with your potentially illiquid token, and that approach fails and fails time after time. So our token is not going to be used as collateral as long as we will not fear that it's not safe yet, and we will definitely not push in this direction unless it's going to be like completely safe. But what is it gonna be? Like I will like start, and then Gavin can like continue because it's a big part of our business model. It's a Prime token being a form of payment for the services that DeltaPrime provides.
That makes sense. All right, thank you for the update.
Okay, great. We are at the top of the hour, everyone. I want to thank everyone for joining this special Avalanche Spaces with DeltaPrime. Matt, Gavin, Piotr, thank you guys so much for all your answers. I think the community really enjoyed this space. So stay tuned for Avalanche Spaces in the future, and jump into DeltaPrime. Feel free to jump in their Discord. And any closing thoughts here, you can say them now.
No, I just want to thank you very much for giving us a stage and helping us out, because also our partnership has helped a lot. And a lot of the other partnerships that we've had we wouldn't have been able to manage that without Ava Labs. So thank you a lot for that. And thanks everyone for being here. Like I said, very supportive. Like we're reading all the tweets, sending it all to the rest of the team as well. It helps a lot. It really makes a difference. Thank you all.
Yeah, and thank you guys for bringing a new DeFi primitive to the Avalanche ecosystem. It truly means a lot, and I'm super excited to see where you guys go in the future.
Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time.